What's up RC enthusiasts? Welcome to this video where we've got something a little bit different on the bench. So from AliExpress, as you can see from the thumbnail, we've got this RC Swamp Dog. It's what you would call an airboat or a swamp boat, designed to skim over the surface of the swamps. We're going to build this up in this episode, and then in the next episode we are going to fit a brushless system to it. So just going through the box here, we've obviously got some decals, and we've got the hull itself with quite a few bits already attached there, look, so maybe not too much building to do. A little bit of carbon fibre, lovely jabbly, nice and lightweight. Here we've got obviously the cage for the prop that goes at the back, something like that, housing the propeller. What else have we got? Instructions, which we'll definitely need, and then we've got a bag of bits including the propeller, a couple of rudders there. We do get a servo and a motor. Funnily enough, I did not know that. Maybe I didn't pay enough attention, but that's quite handy. We've got a 3-wired servo there, and also a brushless outrunner, 2206, 2300 kV. So anyway, let's get all this sorted, and I'll come back to you with a little bit more progress. So there we go, there's our kit, including the 2300 kV motor, 3-wire servo, the rudders, propeller. These are a motor stand along with this bracket which your motor bolts onto. We've got some zip ties with some 3M tape. Then of course the hull itself, featuring a little bit of carbon fibre detail. These are the bits where the motor stand attaches to. The rudder arm, steering arm there. And then all these bits are obviously pre-installed. I should imagine we need to pop our servo, and maybe all the electronics live under the seat there. And then we got our sticker sheet. So I think probably what we'll do is start with the motor mount, followed by, I don't know, the rudders, and then the propeller and all that. So let's get cracking. got a bit ahead of myself there, so let's get this motor fitted. Now as you can see, it's got quite a unique shaft. It's got a reverse thread on that, so that once we put the propeller on, we can reverse thread that back up tight. Get a wrench on that in a minute. So that's obviously going to prevent the propeller coming loose once it's spinning round. 4 mounting points there, supplied screws, 4 mounting points there. So let's get this installed. So as you can see there, we've got some pre-installed blue Loctite on the threads, which is reassuring. So we'll pop that into the last hole like so, and then we'll just go around and tighten up the other threads. Now that the motor is in position, just pinch them up because we don't want to go breaking the carbon fibre. Like so. So you can just about see there that I've mounted it so that the wires come out the side, so that they're nicely concealed, and then we can cable tie these wires to the leg down the bottom there. And as you can see, we're going to have to solder on our own connections there for when we fit this to the ESC, so that will be in the next episode. But for now, we'll just leave those as they are. They will be cable tied to that point. We'll get the cage on, get the rudders on, and then we'll look at fitting the servo. So there we go, there's the rudders, the cage, the prop and the motor all installed. Just make sure that when you install the cage, all the legs there have popped into the hull nice and secure. And make sure the cage never pops off. So I've attached the steering linkage, as you can see. I'm a bit concerned that it's being a little bit forced up by its bracket, or held down by its bracket. It doesn't quite seem to line up, so I might have to put a couple of washers underneath that bracket just to give it a little bit more room. But other than that, everything's gone together nice and easily. So now I think it's time to open up the seat cover and install the servo. So before we can properly attach the servo horn, we need to make sure that the servo is centered. So I've got my little servo tester here. Put that to the center and then plug in the servo for it to center, and you'll just see there from the horn it's self-centering. There you go. As you can see, I've actually already put that on in the correct orientation, so I'll tighten that down, pop it back in the boat and connect the steering linkage and see where we're at. So having having done that, as you can see, the ball end and steering linkage don't quite line up. So I think I'm going to move the ball end in 2 holes, and then we'll give it a quick test to see how well it lines up. But I've also noticed that at the back here there's various positions for the linkage to go, so that's going to affect our trim setup and also the threads themselves. So lots of areas to be able to get your correct setup, but for now that definitely needs to be moved, so I'll do that next. So that was easier said than done. I had to enlarge the hole with a body reamer to be able to get that bolt through, and it's quite fiddly. Make sure as well that you're coming up from the underside, because it fits on like so. So there we go, nice and straight now. I've added a couple of washers to the bracket there, and at the back there on the rudder I've moved the mounting point to the very end hole, so that's given me a little bit better trim, and also just wound the rod ends in on the steering linkage as far as they'll go, just to help with the trim as well. One more thing, just a little corner cut out there for your cable to come through. So I'll put the seat back on, and then it'll be time for the decals. And there we have it, all stickered up, looking very smart, I must say. Makes all the difference, I think. Splash of colour on there. So that's it for this episode. Thank you very much for sticking around with me. If you have this far, then why not smash the hype button? It will help push this content out to more people that might be interested. So on the next episode, I shall be fitting the electronics package that I've got coming from AliExpress. Just a cheap brushless system where I'm going to utilise the ESC receiver and transmitter. So this thing's got its own controller set up. So once again, thank you very much for sticking around, guys. Be sure to like, comment and subscribe. Share this with your friends. And I'll see you on the next one. Bye for now.